Hello and welcome to Miami View Women. My name is Carolina Castillo. I am your host for today. And as you can tell, we have a pretty fierce group of women and powerhouse women here, educators from teachers to school board members to parents to just amazing group of women. My name is Carolina Castillo. And Miriam Dorset, our producer and co-host, is going to be today in the background helping us with all the chyrons and all the links. So welcome, welcome, welcome. I can't wait to introduce you to all these fabulous women who are going to be educating us really on education and really answering our questions, anything and everything education. And please feel free to comment live in the comments so you can ask these women anything that you like on education, depending on what we're talking about. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce you to Luisa Santos, Miami-Dade School Board Member, District 9. Monica Skoko, she's a nurse, Executive Director, Miami-Dade County Commission for Women. Yvette Nicole Harris, Founder, Harris PR and Parent. Lucia Baez-Geller, Miami-Dade County School Board, District 3. Kalyn Lee, Rookie Teacher of the Year. And Ingrid Laus, teacher and author of The Death of Public Schools. Welcome, ladies.
Hi, good evening.
How are you feeling today?
Awesome. It's Friday.
Woo! So I'm really happy because we also have a student, which is Sabrina. So welcome, Sabrina. Thank you for being here. So the way that this came about is I had read something about an SB bill called SB 48. I sent it to Miriam. Miriam didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. It was something about privatization of public schools. Then we were on another show with Lina Sandaal, who is the founder of Stop Parenting Alone, and Yvette Harris, and we kept talking about education and how it's been affected with COVID and the inequality. And then this SB 48 that none of us understood. So we decided, let's bring in the experts because we really don't know and we really want to be educated and really help our community out. So I'd love to start with that, with the SB 48 bill. And let's start it off with Monica. You know, can you tell us a little bit more of this bill?
Yeah, and I also think you hit the nail on the head saying that it's incredibly confusing. It's a huge piece of legislation. So if, normal everyday people can't understand it, no one is really going to understand the ramifications of this bill. So if passed, SB 48, so that means Senate Bill 48, would expand eligibility for school voucher programs. And it would consolidate a bunch of existing programs and allow parents to use taxpayer dollars to use those for private school and other costs. And what's very scary about this bill in particular for parents and students is that it will outsource the oversight of Florida's $1 billion voucher program to private organizations that will end up profiting from the program expansion. And there's no local oversight for or from elected officials. If you're going to a public school, you know that is accredited in a certain way. But unfortunately, if you are going to certain private schools, you could end up going through the entirety of your education only to find out at the end that it did not meet certain qualifications to go on to college. And that's what these vouchers are allowing that to happen. And this expansion is really taking away resources that we need to keep in public schools.
Absolutely. And isn't that already happening with charter schools in general? And, they're taking away public funding from our public schools. Isn't that already happening? I'm so confused. How is this different?
So this This particular bill has to do with the consolidation and expansion of these voucher programs that parents will be able to use for private school facilities. And once you qualify for them, you qualify for them for life. So there's no requalification process. So there's a lot of different problems that this bill would cause for private schooling, and taking away a lot of that funding from public schooling in particular.
Okay. Luisa and Lucia, can you add to this?
Absolutely. I can just jump in here quickly and say that, there are charter schools, and vouchers are not a certain type of school, but a way that we fund your ability to go to a private school. And so originally, some of these had great intentions, right? If I'm a student who's disabled and I can be serviced in a school, then I can take some of what I would be allotted as a public school student and take it somewhere. However, what this does is we've created this patchwork of 5 different voucher programs. This would consolidate them. And what really gets to me here is some of these have restrictions on how much income you can have to qualify. So it was really meant to help people who otherwise could not afford a private education or the specific services they were looking for. And with this bill, if you read it over I think 5 to 7 years, you will land at a place where families who have an income of above $300,000 household income will qualify for this program. That's outrageous. And this will really, really hurt our public school system, which, by the way, is the foundation of our democracy. I'm a proud product of our public schools. It is because of the public school system in the United States that my family came here, and so we really have to fight this bill with everything we've got. And the last thing I'll say is vouchers don't have accountability metrics. Charter schools have minimal, but some accountability metrics. Vouchers have none. And we have found many studies that have even shown that with vouchers, students end up sometimes at some religious schools that have flat out in their policies homophobic and discriminatory policies.
So in other words, this is creating more inequality, right? And division. Is that what this can create chaos, from what I hear? Lucia?
Yes, I agree with everything everyone's saying. But for the most part, the major concern is in a year where money's going to be tight, we absolutely need to be funding our public schools to the fullest extent. And we want to support all children in Miami-Dade County, but we don't want to hurt our public schools in the process. And that's the major concern right now.
So what do parents do? So are parents aware that this is happening? The parents on this show, were you aware that this is happening? Yvette?
So I was, just because I'm an information hoard, but I know that I've spoken to other parents that no, I mean, we're so busy paying attention to, making sure that our students are showing up and, just navigating through this whole world of COVID-19 that why now? Like, why are we not concentrating on the resources that we need to make sure that everybody has a fair and balanced? Why is that not the priority? Why are why are elected officials now, after a huge election year, why are we doing this? It's political. I mean, we know, but it's just such poor timing and poor planning.
And that's where the inequity comes in as well. A parent who is, maybe more engaged, like Yvette has mentioned she is, will be able to navigate the system in a way to make sure that their student is, getting everything that they still need. But not all parents can do that, nor should they be expected to.
So in other words, parents are too busy, right? We have COVID, we have virtual school. Some parents are working 2 to 3 jobs. It's a nightmare. So how can we advocate for parents? Who wants to answer that?
It's really I'll jump in. It's really just about doing what we're doing, which is spreading the word, getting on social media, talking to as many as we can, as many influential community members that can just really educate the public. And we've done it before. We did it with Referendum 362, where we raised money for our community. I mean, it's very possible once we get on a platform and really start to unify. So using media and just doing what we're doing right here.
Absolutely. And I think we can also call committee members and tell them that this is not the time for the bill, and make phone calls to our legislatives. And so Lucia and Luisa, who would we call in this case to really just be an advocate for our parents and for our children in public schools?
Well, the chair of the, go ahead.
I'll just say, and then you can add, Lucia, the author of this bill, Senator Manny Diaz, is where we have to start, and he represents South Florida, which many of us live in. So this is our elected official. So I would start there.
Manny Diaz.
Yeah, and I would say the chair of the education committees, but also just to add on to what Ingrid was saying, it's so important that we educate our friends, that we make everyone, even if they don't have children, a part of protecting our public schools. Let them know how much our public schools contribute, not just to children, but to the community. They have services for elderly. They have services for all sorts of people, food distribution, and how we teach our neighbors to value our public schools could stop bills like this from coming up in the future. So it's important.
So I specifically want to ask this to Ingrid. Are public schools dying? Ingrid, I know you have a book. I know you're an author. The name of your book is?
The Death of Public Schools.
Exactly.
Yes.
So explain to us, how are they dying? Why are they dying?
Yeah. Very simple terms. The death of public schools, I say this in my introduction, is due to the death of good teachers. And more good teachers that I work with, that I run into, et cetera, they're not feeling valued in our society. And I don't mean Miami-Dade County. I mean on a national level, on a global level. In many societies, they don't feel valued, and they are dropping out. They are dropping out of the profession. And the moment that you no longer have a certain threshold of good teachers, right, a critical mass of good teachers, we're going to really start to see the downhill effects of that. And it's coming very soon, unfortunately.
And I know we have another teacher, Kalyn Lee. And how would you answer that or piggyback on Ingrid's?
Right. So actually, I'm going to piggyback off of two individuals. I'm going to piggyback off of our school board members and also off of Ingrid. There's another layer to this, right? When teachers, or when we are seeing a decrease in numbers in our public schools, that dictates the amount of positions that are open within a school. So let's say, for example, you have 100 students in one school year, and then that number goes from 100 to 70. Well, that means that someone's going to lose their job, because at that point, there is no longer a need for that teacher or that custodian or that cafeteria worker to be in that particular facility. So what ends up happening is you see the number of teachers not even being able to serve in the schools that they may have started at. We're seeing, even in the midst of COVID, the number of teachers leaving the schools, but also the number of students, which essentially is a trickle down effect. So if the students are leaving the schools, then the teachers are leaving the schools as well. And a lot of the times it's not necessarily voluntarily, because there is no population to serve. But another reason, like Ingrid is saying, is that not only is it just the quality of teachers that we're having, but a lot of parents are seeing that it's the quality of education that students are receiving. So if they're receiving more resources, for example, at these private schools or at these charter schools, or if they're receiving more one-on-one attention, let's say the class sizes are smaller, or let's say that there are more resources, then these are reasons a lot of the times that parents kind of feel like they don't necessarily have a choice if they don't if they're not receiving the resources that they need from their home schools. So some things that we definitely need to do is reevaluate the resources that we're receiving, but also inform parents that a lot of the times that if they're sending their children to a private school or to a charter school, those requirements are not always the same in a public school setting, as far as certifications are concerned, as far as the degrees are concerned, as far as the professional development is concerned. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're receiving a better quality teacher just because you're transitioning your child over to a private school. There are plenty of private schools that don't even require teachers to be certified educators, which is very scary.
It is. Yeah. So my question is, how does the superintendent, right, of public schooling in Miami-Dade, Alberto Carvalho, fall into this? Could you have meetings with him? Is he an advocate for the public school system? Is he working with the teachers and the parents? Is he doing a good job? What is your, how do you gauge that? Luisa?
Sure. This is certainly something that as a school system, and he has mentioned in our school board meetings, is certainly a priority. Obviously, we saw even recently our district is providing extremely high quality services compared to the funding we receive. And so he's been very public about obviously requesting the resources that our public schools need. Of course, you know, could we all do more? Absolutely. We had a call earlier actually with our legislative team. I had a check-in with them, and we are all strategizing how and who we speak to make sure this stops and put our weight of a board together against something like this. So,
so he's fighting.
I would say that, you know, I can't speak for him, but as a board, we have taken a stand.
Okay, good. Who else wants to chime in on the superintendent?
You know, I in research for the book, Alberto Carvalho we're the 4th largest district in the nation. So this is one man for almost 400 schools in our district. So, you know, as to how much he sees and how much he does, there are limitations to reaching him, et cetera. And one of the things that I educate about in the book is the position of superintendent is really like the CEO of the school board. And he has a huge job. And as time has passed, that the role of superintendent has become more and more political because it needs to be a persuasive role to be able to really, you know, forge all interests together. As the role of superintendent has developed, it's become more, the money running through education has become more publicly scrutinized. And so we also have to understand that Mr. Carvalho is a political position.
And I love that you say that, because I feel that I don't know too much of the inner workings of the school board and the superintendent. And now that you say that he is in a political position, that is how I see him as well. So shouldn't he be trying to influence Manny Diaz and influence these other politicians and really fight for the public schools? I mean, that is what I feel should happen. What do you all think?
I agree. And I think one of the biggest tools that we use and that I've seen him use, and we just received our 5-year strategic plan report, and there are undeniable successes and progress that has been made. We have increased graduation rates over 20% from you know, when we have our baseline in 2014. We have done a lot of great work that he has led, and we have to remember that actually Lucia and I and 7 other people are his boss, and we set the vision and we set a legislative agenda, and we have done that, and he is executing with fidelity on that. And so I think it is important to kind of educate on who sets the policy, the vision, and then who's in charge of executing it, right?
So
And
Luisa and Lucia, I am counting on you. We are counting on you both to really fight for our public schools and our public school system. You know, I have to tell you, I come from public schooling. I had a terrible experience in public school. I was bullied. I learned how to fight in public school. I went to West Miami Dade. You know, that's when I learned my street smarts, right? I was a latchkey kid, so I'd get home by myself, little key on my neck. And the next day I'd have to try to fight and push my way around there. Luckily, I still graduated with honors, and I still did a good job, and I still persevered. But let me tell you, public schooling back then was really harsh. And I understand what you're saying with how it's improved and how it's and how I'm so proud that to have you both really leading this, because I do trust you both, Lucia and Luisa, and to really fight for public schooling and our teachers and our children. But I still hear through the grapevine, you know, that because of COVID, things they kind of went backwards. So our children are struggling with virtual school. Sabrina can help us a little bit more with that because she's in it, right? Our children are suffering, I think, in math. I've been reading a lot of articles that they're behind in schooling. I think public school, their system is still kind of like focused on exams. What is that about? That is no fun. I don't want to go to a school that just pertains to exams. So is my notion of this wrong, or I don't know. Sabrina, could you help us as a student? How are you feeling in your public school system?
The public school system has changed over this whole pandemic, and I do agree that we've been struggling for quite some time now. It's been a little over, or maybe almost a year in virtual school. I went physically for 2 weeks, and it was not the same as virtual at all. When you're virtual, you don't get as much attention, not attention, but like the physical, like, okay, I'm there, like, you know, I'm into it, the teacher's here, we're all talking, conversing. You're behind a screen, you're lacking the emotional everything in a classroom, and just it teaches kids a lot of self-motivation too. That's a very big thing that I've been working on, and it's been different and definitely an experience. So I don't know.
But how was your public schooling prior to COVID? Was it amazing? Was it fun to go to school? Did you feel like you were just like inspired and motivated to learn?
Definitely, I was there and I was ready to learn and just keep on absorbing all the knowledge that I could, and just open to every opportunity that clubs and extracurriculars were throwing at me. And the curriculum was there, and teachers are there for you, especially in public school. I've been in private and charter, so I've had the experience of all. And I definitely think public school is it for me, because it's just, you're there and the teachers are supportive and very there.
Carolina, can I jump in here quickly, and then I'm going to take a step back because I've been talking a lot. But I'm the first to say we've come a really long way, and we have a very long way to go. So acknowledging how far we've come doesn't take away from the fact that we are facing tremendous challenges moving forward, from the digital divide to continuing and persistent achievement gaps. And these are all the things that now we tackle. And Kalyn will be the first to tell you what teachers are doing in the classroom today is working magic. Because no one has done this before. And so, just we are in an extremely difficult situation, and I can tell you that there's a wide spectrum of experience at our public schools, and it is my job and what I focus on to make sure that no matter what school you land at, you have that excellent, amazing experience that does exist in many of our schools.
And I love that you say that, because it gives me hope, right? And that's where it gives me that drive to really advocate for public schools and teachers like Kalyn, Lynn, and Ingrid that are in the forefront, really making a difference for students like Sabrina. So I thank you, especially our teachers, because we know that you're being creative. We know that you are just kind of thinking out of the box and just creating some sort of, I don't know, give us your take, Kalyn. How have you been trying to inspire and motivate children over virtual?
It's very difficult. I really, really feel for Sabrina with what you're going through right now as a student during a pandemic. It's very difficult to motivate students during the pandemic. One of the biggest things that I feel like we're trying to do is to really, really tap into project-based learning to make it a little bit more interesting, a little bit more hands-on for students so that they can actually create more application for the things that they're learning, instead of just saying, okay, well, we're going to solve a math problem. Well, let's build something. Instead of saying, okay, we're going to learn about Romeo and Juliet, let's actually dig in and start creating our own soliloquies and creating our own asides and writing our own text to deliver those same messages and learn the same skills. But the unfortunate reality is that depending on what public school you go to, those things are extremely difficult. We talk specifically about how much we have achieved during the past 20, 30, 40 years. But the sad reality is that the graduation rates across inner city schools are dropping right now. The number of students who are graduation ready in urban core schools are deplorable at this point, because reality is a lot of the students, we can't find them. And even when we talk about the resources, within a pandemic, if you're having students that are virtual, well, they need a virtual device, they need a computer, they need a tablet, they need internet. We are in March at this point, a couple of days away from March, and we still have students who are on wait lists for devices. That is absolutely insane, considering your education is based off of the device that you have, and yet the devices either don't work or the devices may not even be available.
Well, you don't have the internet. You don't have money to pay for internet. So this is creating just much more inequality. Right. And my take is how are we not helping these families and these children? And how are we not getting grants, or are we getting grants and trying to provide? I know Overtown Youth Center like that. What can we do more of, Lucia and Kalyn, to give these children and help them, to get computers in their hands and help their families with getting internet connection?
Right. So at this point, to be honest with you, Carolina, some teachers are at the point where we're coming out of our own pockets for devices for students. We're doing GoFundMe's. We are doing just different programs that we're garnering donations, writing places like Dell or places like Apple, so that we can actually get these devices donated for teachers. Teachers pay, donors choose, for example. It's gotten to the point where it's kind of like, okay, it's not being done, and we continuously asking is only putting us in a predicament where we're continuously waiting. So these are, some things that we as teachers, I have quite a few friends that have been able to get about 100 tablets donated based off of purely fundraising. So, teachers are adding some things on their resumes. Now we're becoming fundraisers as well. Now we're becoming grant writers as well, so that students like Sabrina can have a quality education during the pandemic. But I definitely think that allocation of funds is something that we definitely need to talk about and address. In surveying schools, that are having these particular issues. I love our school board members in that they don't just represent the districts that they were voted into. At this point, they're representing the entire Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And so when we're talking about allocation of funds and what that looks like, surveying students, surveying schools, and seeing what the particular needs are, because the sad reality is the FSA is not going away this year. There's been no one to say that these test requirements are going to be put on pause and the graduation requirements are going to be put on pause. So we're still having to make sure that students are receiving that quality education. So definitely, we, like I said before, as teachers are trying to figure out ways that we can get our hands on these devices, hotspot access with the cell phones, doing our very best to make sure that kids are receiving the quality of education that they deserve despite the circumstances.
Absolutely. That was so beautifully said. And I just want to echo what she's saying, that Kalyn, that we need real solutions that are sustainable. We can't just keep putting Band-Aids over these situations that quite frankly existed way before the pandemic started. We had these inequities happening. So we need to drive people to stand up, social media, drive traffic directly to the people that can make these changes. And in some ways it's Luisa and I, in some ways it's administration, in some ways it's legislative, but just driving people to speak up and finding relatable leaders that they can connect with that will help.
So what I'd like to know for our viewers who are listening, is there a link, Kalyn, that we can tap into, or any GoFundMe page that we can help to raise funds for our teachers, for our students?
I'm muted. I apologize. So I know that these things are definitely depending on school site. There are quite a few teachers along with myself that are working very diligently. So I definitely would recommend that you tap into the specific school sites, because there are various needs depending on those school sites specifically. I definitely can drop you guys my particular email address if anyone is interested in reaching out to me personally. And I can let you know a lot of our urban core inner city schools and, schools all across the district. But I have a lot of friends, a lot of colleagues, a lot of teachers that are having the same issues, and we're putting our heads together to solve those problems. So I can definitely give you my email address.
Can you share your email right now with our viewers, please? That would really help.
My first and last name, so Kalyn Lee, 4 at gmail.com. Super simple.
Kalyn Lee 4 at gmail.com. Thank you, Kalyn. I just bless you, bless our teachers. I want to hear from the parents. So Yvette, what has this meant for you and your 12-year-old daughter? How have you been handling this?
So it's been a very interesting year. I'm a very engaged parent, so it's been a little helpful for her, but it's been challenging. She goes to a great school with great teachers, and I feel on one hand I feel for the teacher, because I can only imagine how challenging it is to teach students in class and online at the same time. She went back to school for a little while, but the incidences of COVID kind of went up, and I just made a decision to just put her back online. But I realized that she wasn't really being engaged. She was feeling like she was left out. A lot of the times the teacher would forget to come online, start the Zoom, not unmute. There was so many various things that it was just really, really bothering her. So I sat down and I wrote a few of the teachers that she was having the challenge. And, one teacher who was actually her favorite teacher and was the most honest, he was like, I really don't know how to do this. I'm struggling. I'm a classroom teacher. This is what I do. I do it well. But the online and, the in classroom is just a challenge for me. And he asked me if I had some suggestions and, that kind of thing. And I had dual feelings about that. I felt like I was completely grateful that he was really honest and he didn't try to make any excuses about it. He was very, very authentic and honest. But at the end of the day, I also felt like, okay, but you got to figure out a way. Like, you can't just not, that can't be the answer. That can't be the solution. Like, we have to figure this out. We have to either look at other schools, other counties, other states that are getting it or doing it, and don't reinvent the wheel. Like, be, resourceful and look it up and see, because it's not fair for the students that are tuning in, showing up present online, to not have the same quality of education just because they're not in the classroom. It's not fair. They might not be in the classroom because enough to for the parents to have them go. It's not fair. So we have to figure it out. We gotta, put a think tank together. We gotta put some resources together, fix it over the summer, figure it out. We're a year and a half into COVID. It's probably not gonna change this year, maybe not even next year. And we have to figure it out.
So you bring up such a great point. What are the resources for teachers, like your daughter's favorite teacher? What are Lucia and Luisa and Kalyn, Monica, anyone could answer this. What are the resources for a lot of these teachers who know that they're fantastic educators, but who say, I've never done this before? How is Miami-Dade County School Board helping them succeed?
Well, I know a number of teachers have reached out. There's department chairs, there's leaders, there's support groups. Working in collaboration has been a best practice since the beginning of time. So I know a lot of teachers are working together informally, but also parent involvement is crucial to these classrooms kind of coming together. So whenever there's any assistance needed, they could speak with principals to get more resources and activities that they can be directed to strengthen. It's also a resource problem, because you go into some schools and they have great cameras that, you could see everybody in the classroom. And then you go to other schools and they're not as well equipped. So outreach to get those resources is crucial right now, into the hands of the classrooms that need it.
Thank you, Lucia. Anybody else?
I think it's important to take a step back. Lucia mentioned that we're putting a Band-Aid on a problem, and we have to remember that COVID and the pandemic is not the problem. It is a problem. It's a huge problem going on right now, but it really is just a catalyst to show how many real underlying problems there were. So we need to back up, and hearing how you spoke about public school and your public school experience made me feel sad and upset for you. I am a product of Miami-Dade Public Schools, and I had an amazing experience. And the way that Kalyn and Ingrid spoke about public schools, it's basic supply and demand, and we need to make sure that there is a high demand, that people have these high demands on their education for their children, and our public schools are meeting them. And that really also, we have to speak to kind of the culture around what people think of a public school, particularly in Miami. There's this idea that you go to public school if you can't afford private school. And I think we really need to rethink that and buy into our public schools wholeheartedly.
I think in a way there has to be some sort, I do PR and marketing, right? So I always think campaigning, marketing, PR, educating. So in a way, it's kind of like we need a campaign to educate our communities in regards of to why advocate for public schools, what we need to fix, how we need to do it. And so in a way, we kind of need a campaign to then influence our community and to kind of also help us and educate us into why we need to put more funds into public schooling, why, instead of charter schools, why it's important to advocate for our public schooling. So is this something that is going on right now, or that the school board is thinking about, creating a campaign to really educate our community?
I can jump in here quickly and say that our referendum is going to be up, and this came up, Lucia brought it up at our budget workshop. And so there is very much going to be this kind of campaign to show the value of investing in our teachers and supporting our public schools. We also, and I have seen this, and it's hard when you're looking at the whole district, but when you go school by school and you're on the ground, you see a lot more of it. A tremendous push in building out the social media presence of every school to highlight the incredible things. This morning, I was at Mass at Homestead, a program that is preparing students who are going to Johns Hopkins to study medicine, and already has doctors that are alumni after being, school for 10 years. I went to Homestead High that's graduating nurses with industry certifications. I mean, these are things that we need to share, and the schools are starting to get the training they need to be able to share that information.
I love that. Thank you.
Luisa said, I think it's really important for us to kind of globalize our view of schools as well. People are very focused on the school their child goes to, but it's a public school system. And make no mistake, when people refer to a bad school, that is steeped in racism. People are referring to schools that are predominantly people of color, Black children, and we really need to rethink society's thinking about racism. A lot of these problems that we're seeing in our education system, they aren't popping up out of nowhere. They're based on a long historic history of racism in our Miami community, and we're seeing everything bubbling to the surface at once.
Yes, I
Anyone
like to
else?
also I like to jump in on what Monica is saying. One of the most basic theories that we can apply to what Monica is saying is the broken windows theory. And that is, when you are in a specific community, one of the first things that you can do is really get into the community, see what's happening within the community, and then clean up the community. And so within a school system, sometimes that looks like, we may have about, 400 schools in Miami-Dade County, right? Create a campaign where our school board members, our people who are our decision makers, are going into the schools, every single school, look at the disparities, see what type of resources are in some of our more affluent schools versus some of our schools that may not be as affluent, our urban core schools, and look at those differences, look at those disparities, and then compare that to things like your graduation rate. Compare that to things like the different industry certifications that you have. Why is it that we have a high amount of students who are attending certain schools on the track to graduate with their associate's degree or going into things like nursing? And then we have schools who are struggling with basic things like graduation. Let's literally look at those schools side by side and see what the disparities are and then fix them from there. But we really can't solve an issue if we're just listening to people talk about those issues on a microphone. You really have to get into the trenches and be willing to get your fingernails dirty. That's the only way you can make it happen.
Yes, and I feel like we're really reactive, right? As a community, we're not proactive. And I love all of these suggestions that you are making here, because it's like you have to envision it and make it happen, and not just, like you said, keep talking about it and keep talking about it. So thank you for that. And we are running out of time. So I wanted to just, open up the floor to each and every one of you, and, to say goodbye to our viewers and just say, what else you'd like to finish with. So we can start off with Yvette.
The pressure is on. I enjoyed hearing, and I will continue to do my part as a parent, and engage other parents to just really be involved and be advocates for students that don't necessarily either have somebody in their household that's able to do that for various reasons. So I appreciate this platform, and in terms of sharing this information. And, and that's what it's about. If we don't talk to one another about the disparities and about the things that, are not so great and just tout all the things that are great, we're never going to make any kind of inroads and changes. So.
Thank you. Luisa Santos?
Absolutely. The first ask I have for everyone is please sign up for my community one-on-one chats. Our entire team of 50 student fellows is sitting down and talking to community to hear exactly these stories on the ground and be able to bring the larger picture that we gather from those stories into our strategic plan, which is what as a board we are working now through June to build. And you can do that by going to bit.ly/D9chats. D as in dog 9 chats, and please schedule that. You can also please sign up for my newsletter, luisasantos.com. It comes out on a monthly basis, and it highlights both things happening in the district, opportunities available, and what we're working on with highlights from school board meetings. And lastly, stay in touch, follow on Instagram and Twitter, Luisa Santos D9, so you can stay up to date and hear about all these other opportunities to get more involved.
Thank you. Lucia?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be sharing with you that it is our 100 days in office this week. So we're very excited. In the next 100 days, I hope to continue working on equity, transparency, accountability, and add on to it all the issues that I know are coming forward soon when we get back into the schools, mainly mental health, safety, and the well-being of our school district in general. I'm someone that faces challenges head on, so I'm excited to be here with so many of my colleagues, so many elected women, and so many women here and watching that are soon to be elected, I'm sure. So I'm very happy to represent you. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me or my office. Our website is district3.dadeschools.net, and I will keep you posted. Just reach out.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you so much. Ingrid?
Yes, I just want to add and piggyback a little bit on what Kalyn and Yvette were saying, that I agree that it's got to start local. And I think we really have to, my experience at my school is very different from what I've heard. So it really is a site-by-site issue. And I think that we need to talk more about our problems and what the schools need, right, on the ground right now, and be able to provide that. Also, if you follow me on social media at Ingrid Laus on Instagram or Facebook, I am presently posting videos explaining and breaking down my book chapter by chapter in like these quick 5 to 10 minute videos. And I am just spreading knowledge so that parents, other teachers, students, and just good citizens have an understanding of how things work and how we can start to really create change. So feel free to please follow me and check out my videos.
Thank you so much. Kalyn?
Yes, the last thing I guess that Yes, I would just definitely encourage individuals to definitely sign up for these focus groups and for these small group conversations. But also, like I said initially, be willing to get your fingernails dirty, because this is not one of those types of issues that will be solved by just having conversation after conversation. We definitely have to get into the school sites, compare, do some qualitative research to be able to see what the actual disparities, what the issues are, and not just necessarily just talking to people, but actually getting in and putting your feet in the shoes that they're wearing at this point. The other thing I want to say specifically to parents, to students, and also to other educators, you can definitely follow my Instagram page, which is Free Game 1202, where I literally drop free game, where you get free knowledge and on different things, which some of those things include scholarships, include fellowship programs, also facts. We're in Black History Month, so I dropped different Black history facts. There was also a scholarship opportunity that just recently passed for a Black History Month essay competition. I'll be doing the same thing for Women's History Month. So just different ways that students can tap into things outside of the classroom and also receive resources that they may not necessarily be receiving inside of their school sites.
Thank you so much. Monica?
I just want to thank every single one of these teachers and school board members, everybody who's making our schools a better place. I was a school nurse for 10 Title I schools and at the same time, and it showed the depth of the problems we're experiencing. And I have the utmost faith that has been renewed by everybody on this panel. So thank you for that. Like Kalyn mentioned, it is Women's Month coming up, and the Commission for Women has put together a bunch of events that are going on throughout the entire county. I dropped the link in the chat if you want to check out some of them. And I would also encourage people to get involved. As the president of the League of Women Voters, we do a lot of advocacy work on issues such as education. And if education is something important to you, shoot me an email, shoot me an Instagram or Twitter DM. We want to hear from you. If you're a parent, we want to mobilize you and organize you to make sure that you are being heard and what's best for our community ends up happening. You can email me at monica.skoko, my last name, Skoko, @gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Loco for Skoko. And thank you all so much.
I love that handle, Loco for Skoko. I'm never going to forget that. And I, of course, have the best for last, which is Sabrina, our student. I'm so grateful that you are here because we seldom hear from our students.
Yes, I'm very appreciative to be speaking on a part of the students and our perspective and what we go through from Monday to Friday and how we view things. Even if I didn't speak on much, I just feel like we should keep pushing each other through these still rough times that we're going through, and definitely just be there emotionally, physically for people, because people can be very in their head and just not speak on it, especially through this. So definitely something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Sabrina. And Sabrina's amazing. She also interns for us, and she interns with Miriam Dorset, who's in the background producer doing our Chiron. So I appreciate you so much, Sabrina. And I just want to say, I want to give a big thank you to all of you for taking the time to really be here with us. You don't know how grateful I am to you and to your time. And I have learned so much from you today. And I appreciate that, because we all need to be a little bit more humble and take the time to listen to those who are in the front lines and really learn and evolve and also be involved and engaged, just like Kalyn says. So that's something I'm willing to do and I'm committed to doing. And I wanted lastly to give a shout out to my daughter, Camila, who specifically painted Malala for us today, since knew that we were going to be focusing on education, and an activist as well, and does public speaking. And I just appreciate our youth. And I really am hopeful, and I'm much more hopeful today, just speaking to all of you and hearing what you're doing. And Palante, palante, palante. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much to our school board members and our teachers. God bless you so much for all you do. I mean, you are miracle workers. Thank you so much. And yes, let's enjoy Women's Month next week, which, you know, for all of us, Women's Month is every single day. Dale. Take care, everyone. We hope you enjoyed Miami View Women today. Thank you.
Thank you.